If you had 15 minutes with me, what would you do?
Same thing. Probably pray.
Pray. Okay. Okay. Do you want to pray?
You want to pray?
Can you say a prayer?
Yeah, I can.
Okay.
Ready?
Even conservatives are availing themselves of birth control for very good reasons. It allows you to control how many children you have, when you have them, and that is a hard-won gain that actually has a great value.
So if you had 15 minutes with me, what would you do?
Probably get to know you more, like as a friend and stuff like that.
But it also carries with it a kind of power for which we don't have the appropriate wisdom. So I don't think you can conserve your way out of this puzzle.
Can you say a prayer?
Yeah, I can.
Okay.
Ready? Heavenly Father, we thank you for this time. We thank you for this day, oh God. We just ask now, Father, that you just begin to touch your daughter, oh God. You touch her mind, her heart, body, and soul.
What has to happen is a renegotiation of the arrangement between mankind and womankind.
As a man, you're supposed to be getting more money. As a man, you're supposed to be buying me a house. As a man, you're supposed to put me above your mother. As a man, you're supposed to be working more hard and getting more money to spoil me and protect me.
Yeah, that's fair. But as a woman, I feel like...
Are you in women business? As a grown man?
I thought we was giving each other advice.
Not a grown-ass man in women business, though. That's giving very much sassy.
The caption underneath this famous Far Side comic was "Early Experiments in Transportation," and it mimics the conversation, some people call it a gender war, that we're having now. In rapid succession, young women got the birth control pill, they got no-fault divorce, they got the ability to delete children, and then they got social media. And men didn't really get anything. And so we're starting back at zero.
The single greatest piece of dating advice for young men is to remind them that they're not needed. That's not the bit that I think a lot of young men are missing. I think the bit that they're missing is that when it comes to romantic relationships and connections, women do not need us anymore. Us, all of us. Not financially, not structurally, not socially. This isn't to diss men. I'm not doing that. I'm not attacking men. I'm just telling you that the world that some of you may be hoping for is long gone. Being needed is no longer enough. You have to be wanted. You have to be desired. You have to be... Wanted is the only word. Most women today are not waiting to be saved or chosen or rescued into a life. They already have lives. They already have stability. They already have community. And that community is full of platonic male and female friendships.
An issue for younger men, because if you're maybe a Gen Xer, certainly if you're a boomer, even an older millennial, you can remember silent gens, even if they weren't the happiest of couples and the happiest of marriages, they did keep families together so that you had consistency over the years. But entering that boomer generation, it all started falling apart. So for many younger men, all they've heard from society is, you need to be something that a woman wants. And if she doesn't want you, that's a you problem. You're flawed from birth. You as a man are the reason why everything is so bad and so screwed up. And you need to go back to the drawing board and figure it out. And it's kind of like being a sibling where your parents are super strict on you. But when they look at your sister, they say, oh, she was born amazing. She can't do anything wrong. And you're looking over at your sister and you're seeing...
I knew that men were stupid when they started advocating for mandatory DNA tests at birth. These are the same men who think that the government is lying about the earth being flat, that the government lies about the census, and that the government faked the moon operation. They will give the government full authority over their DNA to keep in a database forever.
Stop asking me if I'm a man or a woman, because my dad is a man and my mom is a woman. That would mean that I'm mixed, so.
Can you tell me about your dog?
This is Honey. He is a gay, gender fluid, golden retriever Afghan hound mix.
I'm in celebrate mode because for the first time in 33 years, a man called out to me on the street today and told me, don't look so mean. A man thinks I'm mean.
I think I like this little life.
What do you think is kind of driving this divergence? And I guess, what could the consequences of this be?
Well, I think the puzzle might be simpler than it looks, but the diagnosis is starker. You effectively have a cascade of unforeseen consequences of, on the one hand, birth control that is reliable, and on the other hand, feminism, for lack of a better term.
I'm saying you remind them that they're not needed. You remind them that it's not the 1950s anymore. There's a mistake that people make whenever they hear that phrase, oh, we're not living in the 1950s anymore.
The conversation this gentleman is having is a perfect example of trying to suggest fixing a problem with the wrong tools. He's essentially telling men, whatever you want, you don't really have a right to want it because it's not the 1950s anymore. And so you're going to get guys saying, well, okay, I'm going to try to adapt to that because I'm not going to get a virgin wife. She's going to have tattoos. She's going to have gone to school, probably more education than the average guy. She's going to have certain feminist principles. And okay, maybe I'll find a way to deal with that. But if you're trying to rewrite those rules, then what are the new rules? Because the Batzers are even running into trouble themselves.
If I say, hey, baby, let's go to Costa Rica, and she says, okay, but then when we get to Costa Rica, she says, oh, I'm on my period. That's a violation. I think the man is owed that information before you go to Costa Rica.
I know one thing. I know one thing. You better go and go to hell. That's what I know. The audacity. The audacity.
Men are a lot more passive. In my experience, they're a lot more passive. They're looking for why.
Yeah, why and how? Maybe
how?
Yeah.
How?
Jail.
One,
Word.
like I said, they don't take initiative. Like gone are the days where a man would be like, "Hey, I think you're beautiful. I wanna get to know you."
Courting.
Courting. They don't court anymore, right? That's number one.
Because they don't want to go.
Yeah.
To court.
Number two, this was so goofy. What am I even trying to say, bro?
I'm just saying. It's like court. I don't like that word. I mean, keep it 100. Keep it 100. As you as an NFL guy, with all the professional athletes getting taken to the fucking bank by some of these women, scallywags, divorcing to get money, getting babies to get money, that leaves a big impression. Like, God, if I see a pretty girl, is she pretty and is she trying to take me, or does she have her own?
These last two videos are good examples of how guys that are quote unquote select are trying to navigate this extremely difficult modern dating market. There aren't any rules. So essentially you have someone like Coach Greg Adams saying, you should at least give me the courtesy of saying that you are not able to be with me if I'm going to fly you to Costa Rica. And young ladies are saying, you dare ask me that? You should just go straight to, the hot place. And then here guys are saying, hey, if you don't know that from the jump it's a business transaction, you could get took out here. And it's not courting as in trying to court a young lady to get married. It's courting as in how soon can she get you in the court so she can get the state to extract money out of you. And so, again, we as men are trying to solve a problem and we don't have the tools to really solve it yet.
You effectively have a cascade of unforeseen consequences of, on the one hand, birth control that is reliable, and on the other hand, feminism, for lack of a better term. That sensibilities of the moment and technologies radically altered the relationship between men and women. That altered relationship did not get a coherent replacement.
No.
And the system we currently have is disruptive of all of the normal things that allow men and women to partner and be prosperous as a result of doing so.
What Bret Weinstein is essentially saying is that the changes of the last 50, 60 years have been so great in the favor of women that we can't use an old school solution to try and remedy it. Young ladies essentially have been told that they can act however they want. They can do whatever they want to with their reproductive organs. It's going to be praised, and there's still going to be a victim. And even young boys can see that there's something that's not right about this. And so how do you deal with it? Well, we get together in this space and powwow about how we're going to move forward, because we're essentially trying to play 4-dimensional chess when we just started playing 1-dimensional chess.
At the moment, what I see when I talk to young people is I don't think that young men and women like each other anymore. I think they've both got the ick. And having the ick means that they are looking to the future with an eye towards how to go it alone.
This is the part of these kinds of conversations that really kind of rubbed me the wrong way, because he's not saying it as it actually is. What he needs to say is that women don't like average men anymore. As a matter of fact, I think women have a kind of just overall detestment. They just don't like average men at all. They don't see any purpose for average men. And so if you're not an above average, very wealthy, very tall guy, or just a guy that makes her feel a certain way, then essentially you have to pay her to be in her presence. And so that's the one end. And the other end is guys are saying, well, when I try to be nice, young ladies are essentially, like you saw before, cheering on the fact that they're openly mean to men. And so if anything, I think more men are becoming just apathetic, and you're getting young ladies who are just trying to figure out how to find themselves in this new sea of change where there aren't any rules. And so your 20s are a blast, and then your early 30s are a blast, and you're looking for a man, and you can't find that dynamite guy that's going to settle down with you. And so you blame all of those guys that you look past the last 2 decades, and everyone around you is saying the problem with why you're not able to find somebody is because men have dropped the ball, they suck. And men are just saying, yeah, I don't want any part of any of it. And this part of the conversation they won't have in the mainstream media yet, but I think it's coming.
How to get their needs met in the absence of a historically useful plan. And I think this looks different to men and women because, ironically, despite some of the sensibilities that we've had shoved down our throat, men and women are different. And I think women, absent a partnership with men, are looking more or less to the state to provide.
Speaking of feminism and support from the state,
You know what I'm saying? Like, we have to really focus on the capitalism part of it, because if you want to be able to have a woman at home with your kids, you have to be able to afford to do that. And a lot of people right now can't afford to, even if they want to. So before attacking feminism, we should be eating the rich. We should be attacking billionaires and taking back the tax money so that you can have your nuclear family unit.
I wanted to speak on this one. Could you repeat the prompt for me, please?
Sure. No career would give women as much joy and fulfillment as raising children.
Okay. So I'm probably the oldest one here. I just turned 50 last month. So as a golden girl who has raised boys, I'm a boy mom who was a professional woman, and that cost me my marriage, thinking that the career was more important than the family. And so my position is from learning from the mistakes that I made to help younger women make decisions that they will be happy with when they're my age. And you brought up the word acute. There's nothing wrong with working. And I do want to say, we are not expecting the man exclusively works and the woman is exclusively home. Both of my parents worked and took time. You know, you work it out for your family with your husband. That's all that matters.
It doesn't. The nuclear family unit.
Nuclear family means mom, dad, sister, brother, or whatever it is. It doesn't mean only dad works and only mom is in the kitchen. Generations ago, mom may have side businesses, do other things, sew, bake, whatever it is. You do what's best for the family. All I'm saying, as a woman with lived experience, who has been an executive, who has had the big bonuses and all of that, I promise you, having a son that is a Marine, working with my ex-husband to raise 2 boys that we are very proud of, one that's going to the Air Force, nothing will give you that fulfillment than being a mother. I'm telling you now.
Salute to Maggie, the substitute teacher. Not only is she the elder voice of reason for this panel of pretty much everyone that's younger than her, as well as looking across at a panel of young ladies who essentially see no need at all for nuclear family, but she's also reflecting on the mistakes she made that cost her family, focusing more on her career than her family. And essentially, she's trying to stopgap what she sees coming. A generation, 2 generations of young women that don't see any need at all for families in the West. She understands that that's going to have a fallout that's going to affect things on a bigger scale, and at least she wants to atone for her part of it and try and steer some young ladies the right way. But she is that last generation tethered to that silent generation family that said, it doesn't matter if I'm happy or not. I have a duty to the state, to my family, to my children, to hold this family together. When you take that away...
I choose not to date younger because I know that those young men only want help, a roll in the sheets, somewhere to bop their little heads, or a vehicle to drive in or something like that. I don't want that. I don't want to take care of a man.
So I don't think you can conserve your way out of this puzzle. What has to happen is a renegotiation of the arrangement between mankind and womankind. And I keep waiting to see that movement. What is the new way that we are to interact now that we, for example, have control over when and how many children to have? But I don't see it. And I'm frustrated by the chaos that is being engendered in the absence of that deal. I think, frankly, as time passes, and therefore the gap between the current generation that is forging relationships and the last generation that knew how to do it correctly, which might arguably be the silent generation, as that gap grows, the degree to which young people simply assume that a good romantic life is a myth, that likelihood goes up. They see it as some sort of a story, and then you get realistic about, the defects of the other sex, and maybe you make some sort of transactional arrangement, but don't kid yourself, that's what it is, right? That view of men by women and women by men is absolutely toxic and dangerous.
This is the kind of conversation that is frustrating because he needs to have this conversation with young ladies that are essentially calling for a life of luxury, that are saying if you can't date a woman that's in your income tax bracket, don't date. If you don't make $50,000, $75,000 a year, you shouldn't be dating.
Ruby Rose said you need to make $5 million a year to date her.
Everyone can have their dreams and aspirations. I'm not knocking her prerequisites. Now, it's a little steep.
She already told you what she about, so she's under no pretenses.
And there's no conversation with the young ladies. Every young lady that's in the dating field is fantastic. She's perfect. She's amazing. And the fact is, only the men are insufficient. That's not healthy. And so men aren't really faced with any other option except to consider you're going to have to pay because the young ladies are telling you to pay. And what happens with all of these older ladies that don't get attached and they basically become a boss girl, but they never find a man? What is that going to look like?
Now, I ain't never had no problems get my faucets to drip, but I'm having the darndest time trying to reach all of those spots to insulate my home. If you are one of those tenderonis that know how to reach all of those spots, slide in my DMs. Be quick about it. Winter's coming.
I can still remember the revival nights with my silent generation grandmother and grandfather and hearing my grandmother lecture my girl cousins about how they were to purport themselves as young ladies and talk to them about what kind of guy they should marry and how important family was. Of course, feminism has essentially said all of that is bunk and told young ladies to throw all of that away. And the replacement for my silent generation grandmother, who was married for longer than I've been alive, is young ladies, or should I say elder ladies like this lady, who is essentially acting like a young woman, setting a thirst trap on the internet, saying winter is coming in, come get some of this.
You must have your own transportation. Don't do that coming and going to get you. Also, you must have your own home. Once you're finished winterizing my home, you can't stay here. No squatters. Show you what I look like with my coat on. See, how's that? This one I call Cruella. This one is for those tenderonis that aren't afraid of a woman who can Papa collar.
It's hard to imagine that in a 50-year time span, the elder ladies went from my silent generation grandmother, who was lecturing young girls about how to wear a skirt and how to get married, to the same age women now doing thirst traps on Instagram saying winter is coming. Hey, young guys, don't you want to come and get some of this? Whatever she's offering. And so to tell guys that traditionalism or religion is going to fix this or going to be the elixir to deal with this is just not fair. And to tell guys that you're not man enough or you got to be someone that she wants, that's not fair either. Because these young ladies, many of them are sharing themselves with a large number of men, more than ever has happened before, because of the technology that's available to them. There's never been a book written on how should a man have a healthy marriage with a high body count young lady in mass. Maybe on occasion it happens 1 or 2 times, but what happens when that's the new norm? That book hasn't been written yet. So again, it is young men or more men dealing with, dare I say, old bops. What is the book for dealing with those young ladies, those elder ladies, those middle-aged ladies that have been with a number of guys and they didn't get the guy they wanted, so they're going to settle down with you? All of these pundits on the internet talking about what men have to do to be more financially viable and be the kind of men that these women want to be with. If they wanted to be with these men, they would be with them before they tried to get down into their mid-30s or late 30s and get married. Instead, they're throwing that Hail Mary pass and looking for that guy in the 30s. And after several generations of this feminist young lady dating pool, guys just don't want anything of it. I mean, if the choices are no bop or old bop, I think most guys are going to say no bop is good for me. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, comment below. I'll catch you next video. Take care.